So welcome back, everybody. Let's get rolling with our May webinar. As I mentioned, today's webinar, we are partnering with Solver, and we are presenting some challenging, trying to address some challenging issues that organizations have and are going through today during this turbulent economy. So with me today presenting will be Terry Ginley. He's the Vice President of Partnership Development for Solver, and Stephanie Gamber, who is the Vice President of Solution Engineering. And in combination with Terry and Stephanie, we're going to roll through the Solver product, its value propositions, and also we're also going to talk through and show some demo of the solution. So we'll wrap up at the end, and also during the webinar today, there will be a couple of polling questions, so we'd like your participation to answer those questions. So we'll pause and ask those questions and show you the results of that. And then lastly, I'll mention it again, but at the end of all of our webinars, we have an exit survey we'd like you to take as well. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Terry, and he will take the reins here.
Thanks, Michael, and thanks for the opportunity to be presenting the Solver solution today. And with that, we'll just dive right in. I just want to do a quick sound check. Can you hear me okay?
Sounds good.
Okay, we had some internet issues here in my home office today. I'm sure we've all had those over the last few months, and my internet just came up about a minute ago, so just wanted to make sure. So the session we're doing today is talk about how can you gain financial controls in these uncertain times. We've all been through, or many of us have been through recessions before. The impact on the businesses in a positive or a negative way, has all happened to us. So we want to make sure we're going to talk about that and how Solver can best work with you on that solution faster and quicker than maybe Excel today. Next slide. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to jump into a quick poll here. If you basically use the polling buttons, if you could say, are you managing your budgeting and forecast process manually in Excel? Yes, no, or I'm not sure. It looks like we have about 75% of people have voted, 80 some, so give it just another minute. And so with the majority of the vote in, looks like 50% are using Excel today, 17% are not using Excel today, and 33% were unsure. So next slide. So as we look at these forecasting best practices during the economic downturn, it's important that we make smarter and faster decisions, that we can update into insights and informational, and basically trying to make sure that we get a fresh forecast as fast as possible as we look at our different areas of our business. As we're probably all aware, most companies, the budget you created this year is out the window, so it's time to go ahead and quickly and fast create that new budget. And also, basically what our tool allows you to do is use effective key performance indicators to track and manage your organization. So a little bit about Solver quickly. We've been around for 20 plus years in the financial reporting, budgeting, forecasting, and corporate performance management space. We're excited that we partner with sa.global for looking at different solutions for everybody on this call. We have about 15 locations around the world, as well as 140 employees. We also serve about 3,000 customers today. So that's kind of Solver by the numbers. So we'll move to the next slide. And we'll talk about some of the trends that we're seeing in the 2020s here. Even this is before the economic downturn here. Data is the new gold in organizations, and the key word is there: if you can collect it and organize it quickly and fast. If we spend the whole time trying to collect the data, we really don't have the time to analyze the data. And also the speed to market with using this data. For example, we have a client that runs a chain of 80-some restaurants across different brands. And as you can imagine, they've been severely impacted. And so what we're doing with them, we've started a consulting project where we're actually saying for this brand and product, should they stay open? Should they be pickup window only? What's the cost if you are in just a pickup window only? And now they're actually reforecasting, okay, which ones should open up in which states and when? So really that kind of speed to data, because if you lose a week's worth of sales, then you probably should have been going after, in the restaurant industry, that's a big number right now. And then basically the efficiency of tools that collect this data, and that's a process of a tool like Solver, as well as lineal processes that, it's not spreadsheets and data flying around the organization. It's more of an efficient way to collect and capture that data. The next slide. I like this slide, and the next one's kind of everybody's pulling their hair out. I'm not sure where we got these, but basically the first thing I want to talk to first here is the challenges with planning, because that's what Stephanie's going to be showing us here this afternoon. Basically, a lot of manual data loading, getting it into the spreadsheets. As far as how do you templates to distribute them, send them all out, give them dates. It's a very manual process. I always talk that the manual workflow, email shouldn't be a workflow. It's a communication tool. Well, you'll see with Solver, you have actually workflows for approvals, commenting, updating, rejecting budgets. So really some interesting things that that you can do with the solution, as well as it's all web-based. So unless like me, you dropped your internet here a few minutes ago, if you have any access to the internet, all your data, all your decisions are available to you, at your fingertips. And then the next slide we want to talk about is reporting. And Stephanie will show a little bit of that as well today. And again, another person pulling out their hair. But some of the challenge they have is, pulling it from many different data sources, meaning it could be any of those. It could be combining, like you see up there, your AX or your Dynamics Finance solution. It could be pulling in CRM data from a host of different CRMs, payroll, Google Analytics, pulling that data together. And the nice thing is with it, what Solver is able to do is really have one data warehouse. So there's one version of the truth. There's one reporting tool. And the biggest thing I think is that it's one user interface, which is, it's Excel. So it's Excel based in the cloud. So basically you have that same familiarity, not going to multiple different tools. And the next slide. So, and then if you think about the consumers of data across your organization, many of these people are listed here, and they all want to look at the different key performance indicators from different levels. And everything you see in the green, the circle in the middle, that's all in the cloud. Whether it's reporting, the planning and the reforecasting that you're doing right now, as well as Power BI is our dashboarding solution. So if you go to Power BI, say type in Solver, literally the connector's right there. You can get access to the warehouse and the data. So one thing I always like to point out too, as far as for different insight across the organization, if you look at the difference, we have D365 in there or AX, you may have a legacy mainframe system. What Solver can do is actually not have you migrate that data, but it actually can report and consolidate that tool, even if it's a different format, different database, even different chart of accounts. So, so very powerful, broad solution in that area. So the next, I think we're going to jump into another poll. And our second poll question is, would your company benefit from the ability to make smarter decisions with an accurate forecast and powerful reports? And okay, looks like we have about 50% of the vote is coming in. Wait just another moment. Okay, so it looks like at this point the answer is 88% yes and 13% no. Is it possible? And actually 0% no. So thanks, Brenda, for showing that poll results there. Okay, and with that, I'm going to do is turn it over to Stephanie from our organization It's going to give you a overview demo of the Solver Cloud solution.
All right, thank you, Terry. I am just going to show my screen here. And now everyone should see what is the home screen for when I'm logging into Solver here. So I like to start here right at the home screen so you can get the full experience. But what I want to take you through today is we're going to go through the process of updating and quickly creating a new forecast. Because as Terry mentioned, right now, pretty much every organization is in the same situation where with all of the significant changes and impactful things that are going on in the world and with our economy, we need to reforecast and we need to do it quickly. So we're going to show you how you can do that and how you can accurately report off of that information so you can make faster decisions on a as close to real-time basis as possible. So here within Solver, if you look over here on the left-hand side, this is access to all of the different tools that I can use within Solver to complete reporting, budgeting and forecasting, collaborating with other people within the organization, so communicating back and forth, as well as if I'm an administrator, setting up some of the administrative privileges. So I'm logged in with access to everything, so we can do pretty much anything we want today. But the focus is going to be on forecasting. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start right here where it says budgeting, and we're going to go into our budgeting model and go through that workflow, go through that process of how we can create a new and accurate forecast. So when I'm in this view for budgeting, this is something that would be specific to usually a finance user, sort of your budget administrator. So this is the person that's going to have access to all of what we call your different budget templates. So these are different areas that you would budget for. So you can see capital, travel, there's expenses, there's payroll, all of the different things that you might have. If you're doing this in Excel, these might be different tabs in your Excel file, or if you're using another tool, these would be different areas of your budget. But as an administrator, what I'm able to do is I can leverage all of these templates. Some of them I can use to set up assumptions that I push out to different areas of the budget, and then I can assign these out to different budget contributors to complete their portion of the budget process. So one thing to note is that everything that you're seeing here today, all of these templates, these are Solver templates that when our customers are deploying Solver, they can take advantage of to get a quick implementation, because we can take these templates, configure them for your particular chart of accounts in your environment, and get you up and running very quickly. So just a side note on that. I'll point out one more thing here before we jump into the actual updates. If you look here on the left-hand side, all of my different templates are organized into categories. So that makes it very easy for me to find different things as the administrator of the budget. So in this case, the first thing I have here is I have a budget process overview document here that goes through some of the steps that we do when we're doing our annual budget, right? So the annual budget is usually pretty involved. We have a lot of folks that are going through a lot of steps. Most customers that we work with, this can take a significant amount of time. It can be a very iterative process. Getting it right takes time, takes effort, so it takes an investment of having a lot of folks involved. But when we're trying to reforecast, I'm going to click here to show you a process overview. That's a little bit different. So budgeting is taking that strategic vision from the executive level and translating that into a very granular, detailed revenue and expense on a monthly basis. But with forecasting, that's something that we should be able to do quicker. So we're taking that budget, we're recasting it, and we're doing it in a much faster way. And the better that we get at forecasting, the quicker we can do this, the better information that we can get back to the executive team so that they're thinking with this on a strategic level and can set the direction of the company. So it all flows together. We have the high level strategy, which flows into that budget. Then that forecast is taking that and just resetting it as frequently as we need to make sure that our projections are giving us good visibility. So this is what we're going to focus on today. We're going to focus on that forecasting piece. So we already have a budget in place, but that budget is broken because of all of the changes. If we run a budget to actual, the results are not going to give us really good insight. So let's start from the beginning here of creating that new forecast. So as the budget administrator, what I want to do first is, how about we set a new baseline? So we know that our current budget is so far off the mark that we might need to really start from some new assumptions. So I'm going to click on this category for my forecasting package, and I have a few different templates here. And the first one is called this profit and loss breakback, which is a top-down forecast. So this is going to allow us to create a baseline version of the forecast based on new assumptions. And I always like to say this is the quickest way that you can create a budget or a forecast, because honestly, within a minute or two, we can have an entirely new version of this template ready to go, and we can make some changes here. So what we would do first is we would choose if we wanted a budget for a specific company, or we want to do a consolidated budget, or we want to do this by department. Then we choose the version of the forecast that we want to update. So here's a nice thing about Solver. You can have unlimited versions of your budget or forecast. So obviously something that's really important right now is to be able to work through those different versions. You might want to do comparative versions to plan out different scenarios. If X happens or Y happens or Z happens, model those out and you can see what's the most accurate. But you have the ability to create unlimited versions here and then update those assumptions. And then you can choose the period you want to budget for. So let me pop this into full screen, get a little bit more real estate to work with. So you'll see here, we're bringing in our profit and loss type accounts. So if I were to scroll down, you'd see all of these broken out on a departmental level. But we have a few yellow cells, and what these yellow cells are telling us are these are places within our template where we can input some different assumptions to create our new version of the forecast. So if you see these green columns here, this is the remainder of the year. These are all currently at 0, but as soon as we put in our assumptions, that is going to change very, very quickly. So let's say we have a new projected net income number that's come down at a strategic level. We've entered some new KPIs and strategic goals from our executive team, and we want to model out based on this net income number, what is that going to look like on a monthly basis for us? So I'm going to plug that in. As soon as I do, you'll see that forecast populate. So now we have some month-over-month projections for every single GL account. So this could be a starting point. This can be our baseline because it is creating this based on our historical trends, if those trends hold true with this new net income number. But we can also adjust this. So let's say we know that product revenue is going to decrease a little bit more. We can bump this down a defined percentage. We can bump up different areas. We can also do this a little bit more high level. For example, if we want to increase groups of accounts, like all of our cost of sales, all of our sales and marketing expenses, we can do high level adjustments as well. And all of this is summarized up here on the top, so we can see what our net income looks like, what our revenue, departmental expenses, with our actuals, our forecast, and what those variances are. So again, we model this out as much as we want until we're comfortable with all of that. And then from there, we can save this. So just by hitting save data, we now have a new version of our forecast in Solver. So there's no intermediate steps. There's nothing in Excel, no manipulation. You just hit save data. I could run a report the second and see this, compare this against my actuals. It's in the system. Now, this is a good starting point, but it's not going to be fully accurate because we haven't gotten input from different department heads, people that know different areas of the business, our budget contributors, to refine these assumptions. So that's what I want to do next. So as the budget administrator, now that I've set this baseline, I want to invite people from within the organization to participate and to adjust these based on what they know of their area so that we can refine this even better. But we still want to do this on a driver-based type of model so that we can do it very, very quickly. So the way that I can include others within the budgeting process is through the Solver workflow. So I'm going to go here to workflow, and this is where I can set up assignments for users to complete within the system. So anytime you want to set up a new workflow, as the administrator, you can set it up and track everything that's going on right here. So if I were to pull up any of these existing workflows and click on status, I can see exactly what the status is and if it's been completed or not. So in this case, I can see that these 3 tasks are in progress. If it were completed, I would see it under a status of completed, or if it hadn't been started yet, I could see it as a status of new. So this lets me know, are we moving along at the right pace? Do I need to give some encouragement to anyone to get things moving, or are we in good shape? So full visibility into what's going on so you can make sure that you're where you need to be with your updated budget or forecast. So I want to set up this new forecast assignment so that I can have some updates from my department heads. So to do that, it's very simple. I just clicked on new forecast. I would put in the name of my new workflow. I'm able to include reviewers and approvers. So these are the folks that are able to participate in that forecasting process, either as a formal approval authority, so they can say, yes, this is good, or no, they can reject it, or as a reviewer, which is someone that can communicate back and forth, provide insight, but they're not a formal approval authority. From there, I can also set up a to and from window of time. This means if we want to update this budget and we only want to have 2 weeks to do that or 1 week to do that, we can set this deadline, and as soon as that time elapses, no further changes can be made. So you can lock down this version of the budget and protect it from any errant changes that you don't want, so you don't get any surprises when you're running those financial statements, which I know is always a fun thing for everyone. Lastly, we just select the templates that we want to assign. So when we were looking at that library of templates, those were all of the templates that are available. I would just select what I want to use. In this case, we might want to do our driver-based sales forecast and our payroll forecast. And then I would just assign the users. And as soon as I hit publish, what'll happen is the users that have been assigned these tasks will receive a notification here in Solver telling them that they have an active assignment, as well as an email notification. And when they click the link on that assignment notification, it's going to take them directly to the assignment that they're tasked to complete. So right here, I will take off my hat as the budget administrator and show you what that's going to look like from the perspective of the budget contributor who just received their assignment. So as the budget contributor, I would follow that link to my assignment, and it's going to take me here in Solver directly to this assignments module. So now that I'm in assignments, I can see the exact workflow that's been created and the tasks that are assigned to me. So I'm just going to click on this, and I can see that I have 2 things to complete here. So I have both a payroll forecast template that I need to update. So I need to make sure that my payroll projections are accurate. And I also have a sales driver-based forecast to complete. So this would be something maybe for like the sales manager. These might be the tasks that they have to complete. So usually that starting point for budgeting and forecasting, because it drives so many other areas of our forecast, is going to be revenue, is going to be sales. So I'm going to start there so we can make sure that that's accurate. And then from there, we can update our payroll so that we know that we have the right size workforce to support our payroll or our revenue model here. So here, this is what I'm assigned to complete, this version of the forecast. I'm going to pop this up into full screen so we can see it a little bit better. So right now we have this populated with that starting forecast. So this is based on that initial forecast that has been created, but this gives me a good starting point. And in some cases, I may not need to make very many updates, but I have the ability to make these updates where I do need to make this more accurate. So up on top, I see what the full year sales target is. So this is what's flowing in from those assumptions. This is what's flowing in from that baseline that we created. And this is important because you want to make sure that everyone has visibility into what those targets are, and everyone's sort of marching to the same drummer when they're trying to update their forecast. So I know that we're trying to hit that sales target of 12 million. And here I have all of my sales team and their budget and what their actuals to date are and what their forecast is. So I might want to go in here and make some adjustments at the salesperson level, because as the sales manager, I might have a little more insight into upcoming performance and sales pipeline. So I'm going to click here on Aria. If I just want to do a manual adjustment, maybe bump her up a little bit based on some pending sales I know are out there, I can do that. Adjust my sales that way. Maybe I want to click on Christian. I know he's taking on a new product line, and I think that that's going to bump up his projections, maybe 15%. Oop, that's a nice percentage. Let's do that with a decimal, 15%. Make that change there. And all of these changes will ultimately flow into my summary up here on top, so I can see where I'm at with my actuals versus my original budget versus my new version of the forecast. So I can see how I'm doing against that target. Once I'm happy with all of my changes, and I can make as few or as many as I need to get to that point where I feel like I've got the right numbers, I can then check this box to complete assignment. And what that'll do is it's going to send it to my approver to let them know that I'm done with my portion of the budget, and then they can review it and approve it, or they can kick it back to me for further revision. And all of that history, all of that back and forth, all of that communication, that is tracked right here in the activity log. So if I wanted to make a note here and say updated based on new pipeline numbers, anything like that, I could communicate, and then that information will be shared with my reviewers and my approvers, and we can go back and forth. So this is a good way to keep everything with your budget and forecast together in one place. So if you're trying to remember, hey, why did we increase ARIA by 15%, or why did we make those changes? You have that history preserved with your forecast. And as Terry mentioned earlier, you're not having to go into your emails and dig around for old emails and try to find information. We want to keep it all for you in one place. So all of the history, all of the information, all accessible right here within Solver. So we've done our sales budget. One more piece of that. Let's update our payroll budget. So now we know what we're projecting here. And this is an area I know where a lot of organizations have had to make some significant changes. So we might want to model out some of these adjustments to our payroll. So what I have here first is I have a snapshot of all of my current employees, their current salary information. And if I scroll over here to the right, I can see what this is on a month-over-month basis, including all compensation, all benefits, everything else rolled together, all of the taxes. And then down at the very bottom, this is summarized on a general ledger account basis. So this is what gets updated in our budget when we make changes. But let's say in this case, I have a number of full-time employees here on the top, and then I also have a number of contractors and part-time employees. And because of all these changes going on in the world right now, we've decided to change our model a little bit, where we want to reduce our part-time and our contract employees and have some of that work move over to our full-time staff. So I'm going to go to my assumptions, and I'm going to make some large adjustments here. So let's say, first off here, I want to decrease my part-time employees by 5 across all of my departments. So I'm just going to plug that in. And then I want to give a salary increase to my full-time employees of 5%. Does that, I don't know if that quite makes up for a decrease of 5 headcounts, a 5% salary increase, but we'll model that in there. So once I've made these large scale adjustments, if I go back to my payroll model, what I'm able to see is the impact of these changes and where I'm at versus my target that's coming in from that baseline and from my initial new forecast goals. So that's $850,000 is my payroll target. Last year was 1.6 million, so that's a pretty massive decrease. And based on these changes I just made, I'm $17,000 from my payroll goal. So that's quite close. I think we're pretty much on the money. If I wanted to, I could make additional adjustments at the individual employee level. If I knew employees might be leaving, I can set an end month for them, and that will zero out their taxes and benefits at that month. Or if I have new hires, I can add them as well, and it'll create a to be hired employee code. But I can continue this until I'm fully comfortable that I have the right workforce in place. And when I do, same rules apply. I just hit complete assignment, and this gets submitted for approval. We now have our baseline with all of our revenue and expenses. We've refined our revenue model so it's more accurate, and we've updated our payroll. And these are the biggest areas of our forecast that are really important to get right. So at this point, we have a fully realized updated forecast for all of our income statement accounts. We could run a new P&L and we could see exactly what our actuals versus our forecast looks like. But if we want to be even more accurate, one of the big things that a lot of folks have attention on right now is cash position and cash projections. And to get clear visibility into that, we need to go a little bit beyond just our income statement, and we need to take a look at our balance sheet and model out what that might look like with some upcoming changes. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to actually run a couple cash flow simulations and show you what that looks like and how we can make some updates there. So for this piece, what I just did here is I switched over to a Power BI Solver cash flow model. So Solver has a pre-built connector to Power BI where we can push all of the data, all of the schema, hierarchies, everything that's already configured into Solver, push that into Power BI. And what you're able to do then is create really powerful visualizations and simulations off of that Solver data and do it quickly and much more easily than if you were trying to start this up from scratch, because you're already leveraging the information and the structure you have in Solver. So in this case, what I'm doing here is I'm pulling over my updated information from Solver, my financial information that is driving my cash flow simulation here. So down here in the bottom right-hand corner, I have a cash ending balance. I have a goal for that, and then I can see exactly where I'm at for hitting this goal. And this little dial here, I can also set alerts on this so that if I fall below or above a certain threshold, I can receive an alert that I need to take action. But in this case, what I want to do is I want to make some adjustments to different areas within my cash flow simulation and see where that gets me towards my ending cash goal of 17 million. So some of the biggest drivers around that, of course, are your payables and receivables and the timing there with working capital and everything. So we can make some adjustments once we get to a point where we feel like, okay, this looks good. What we want to do then is lock that down in our balance sheet budget. So the nice thing about these simulations, and if you're budgeting in Excel, this is an area where you might have some difficulties, is it's very easy to toggle, adjust, simulate, but in Excel, because it's formula driven, you don't really have the capabilities to do simulations on this level of complexity with all these different drivers and variables. Underlyingly, it seems complex, but it's very easy from a user experience. So this is just something where if you do find that you need to do more what if analysis, more simulations, Power BI powered by Solver is a great way to do that. So we have our number here. Let's update our balance sheet budget. So we have the last piece of our puzzle here to finish our new version of the forecast. So what I'm doing here is I clicked on a link from my cash flow simulation to my balance sheet budget template. Takes me right back into Solver, so right back where I can see my formatted reports, and I can maybe make some adjustments here to like my AR terms, accounts payable, any of my balance sheet accounts. I can make some adjustments here to get it in line with what I'm projecting for my new simulations here. This last piece of the puzzle, once this is done, once I save my balance sheet budget, now we have income statement and balance sheet ready to go. And what that means is we have a full and complete picture for our new forecast, and we can start running some reports. So I would say probably one of the areas where you're going to gain a lot of efficiencies with Solver is around that transition from completed budget, updated forecast to reporting. Because if you're doing that in Excel, there can be a lot of manual steps and manual processes to get that into the right format, to upload it into whatever tool you're using for reporting. But here with Solver, as soon as you hit that save button, as soon as you approve that budget, I can go right in and run a report. And that's what we're going to do right now to show you just the last piece of that forecasting puzzle. So what I've done is I have gone here to live reporting. So this is going to look pretty familiar, right? This looks very much like what we just saw with budgeting. But the real difference is instead of where we're updating budgets and forecasts, these are just reports that are pulling different types of information that you might want to report off of, whether that's financial or operational. So it can be ERP, CRM, it can be all sorts of internal operational data sources. The key from our end is we want to get it all together for you in one tool where you can easily access anything you need with one report with the push of one button. So I have a package here that is based off my updated forecast that's really has a heavy lean towards giving us visibility into cash position, because that's what the executives want to see. They wanted that forecast updated, and then they wanted to see, all right, what does it look like for the rest of the year? What sort of action might we need to take? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my forecasting pack reports. I'm going to look at that category, and I'm going to pull up this liquidity risk forecast package. So you can see some of these are blue, and this one happens to be purple. Anything that's purple means I've grouped together a bunch of reports into a package, and this allows me to create like a financial package, a monthly package, and then it's easy to share that with others within the organization. So I'm pulling this up with my latest version of the forecast. And you can see that this is a very sort of visual report representation. You'd be interested to know that everything that you're seeing in this particular report, this is all Excel formatting, Excel charts, Excel graphs, Excel conditional formatting and formulas. And that's one of the really nice and powerful things about Solver, is that the entire power user design experience is based in Excel. So you can get the exact formatting you want. If you have an existing budget or forecast in Excel, you can leverage what you've already built and just incorporate the automation of Solver to streamline your processes. So we find that because most of our customers are coming at least somewhat from Excel, whether your whole process is in Excel or you're using it to sort of get things into the right shape that you want, it's very easy to pick up because you're using a tool that you already know. So side note there, when you're seeing all of this sort of graphical, colorful layout, this is just pure Excel, things that we probably do on a daily basis. So the first thing here that our executives want to see within this report, and I can close and open some of these little groupings to highlight different areas, is our liquidity risk level. So this is the big number that now that we've updated our forecast, now we have insight into what things look like for the remainder of the year for our business. So we can see based on various different calculations, different drivers, that we're in pretty good shape for the first few months. Then our cash gets a little bit tight, gets a little bit dicey. We might need to take some action to get additional capital or to maybe hold off on some different expenditures. But this lets us see looking forward what those projections are so we can take action early and we can have that visibility. If I open up this grouping, I also have a number of different additional key business metrics that we might want to see, such as our aging, debts, EBITDA, cash, just a cash number, cash and equivalents, all of that information here, as well as some graphs based on similar data. So this is your snapshot. This is that sort of quick snapshot. How are we doing? What's our cash look like? What do we need to do? If I scroll down here a little bit further, there's even some action plans, and this is where it gets interesting, where you can save information that's not financial, that's not numeric. This is strategic text type information that is saved within Solver that tells us what sort of steps we need to do when some of these risk areas are triggered. So this is your quick overview on liquidity risk, but the rest of the package has some updated financial statements. So this is what we're probably even a little bit more used to seeing. So if I go down here, I can click through some tabs on my reporting package. Here is a standard profit and loss report. This is actual versus our forecast variance. So now we have a new forecast. Now we can create these new profit and loss statements and run it with that new forecasted projection and see what that looks like. So quickly we can get visibility into that anticipated performance with that new forecast. There's our profit and loss, there's our balance sheet, and there's our cash flow. So we can package together any reports that we want to and bring that together to give us the full 360-degree picture of the business. So this package, I'm able to do a number of different things with this, but some of the more important ones are I can add some commentary if I want to before sending this to others to review, but I can share this. So I can take this and maybe I need to share this with my executive team. I can click on share, I can choose who I want to send it to, and they'll receive a copy of this within their Solver archive, which is where all of their shared reports are located. They can pull this up, they can view it, they can have full drill down capability into underlying journal entry level transactions, which lets them have more of a self-service experience if they need to answer questions. And it gets them everything they need within the tool. So that's just a quick start to finish walkthrough of a potential driver-based reforecasting process to accommodate all of these changes that we're seeing right now. So we started with creating a baseline, refining that baseline at a budget contributor level, and then lastly, updating some of our balance sheet numbers and then sending that out in a completed forecasting package for users in the organization that might need to see that. So that's the goal with Solver. We want to streamline, automate, make it easier for you, and keep it all together in one tool where you have access to everything you need. So hopefully this gave you a good overview of some of the capabilities of Solver. We just touched on mostly some of the forecasting pieces, but Solver is a comprehensive tool when it comes to everything corporate performance management based, and there's a lot more that we can always show in the future as well. So with that, I will hand it back over from my demo, back to the presentation.
Great. Thanks, Stephanie. I appreciate kind of taking that end-to-end business process across the solution, and that was good to see. So if you want to learn more about the Solver solution, down below there's a link you can click on that'll take you to the Solver demo solutions. There's videos, there's PowerPoints, there's PDFs, kind of a full experience online, and it's broken up into anywhere from 2 to 8 minute little snippets. So you can kind of pick the areas you want to learn more about the solution. So next slide. And also this deck, I'm told, will be coming out to you. So you'll have a link to that, click on that as well. So the last kind of area we wanted to cover today, because we get this question asked a lot, Dynamics 365, AX, the solutions that you're using, they're great ERPs. But really, where's the line between those? Because there's a little bit of grayness there, and we want to kind of highlight a bit of those areas. I won't jump into all of them, but clearly, Solver is not, you see in the top line there, ERP functionality. We're not a transactional system. We're not meant in any way to be an ERP. We support ERPs. Dynamics 365 has financial reporting. So you can do a lot of those capabilities there. But when you get to the next area, like advanced financial reporting, really that's where Solver really goes a lot further that you can do, especially within the area of non-financial data. So Stephanie showed a little bit of some examples, some payroll. We were working with a professional services firm that pulls into their models, not just their financials, but their project data, hours to complete. Those have been impacted, whether projects have been accelerated or delayed. And then putting those payroll data in, like you saw Stephanie doing earlier, and that could all be in one financial report. So that's really kind of one of the key differentiators there. And then as far as, you can do consolidations within Dynamics 365, absolutely works for 80% of companies. But if your company needs something where you're consolidating maybe, another ERP or other legacy data, that's where you can basically do those kinds of different things. And so you'll have this slide. So if you want to kind of see which one of these check boxes may apply to your business and determine if you want to learn more about it. So that's our presentation for today. And I think our next area is we're going to open it up for Q&A, Michael.
Thanks, Terry. So I didn't see any questions in the chat box, so I don't know if anybody has any questions. As always, the account management team here at sa.global is available to work with you directly on any of your needs. This being one of them that we thought we'd highlight in today's turbulent times, to make sure that you're thinking about the budgeting and forecasting process, and if you do have some difficulties, this is an option for you to plug and play with your D365 solution. So we wanted to bring it to your attention and make sure that it's top of mind. And obviously, we're trying to think about top of mind topics and tools and services that we and our ISV partners can provide to help you guys in this time. So I don't know. I still don't see any questions. So I want to potentially conclude the webinar for today. And as I mentioned, certainly the sa.global customers can reach out to both myself, Stacy, or JP, and we can work with you on this. but certainly we will definitely bring in the Solver team to work directly with you guys on an opportunity that you may see fit. So please reach out to us, and we will then obviously work with Terry and the team to engage the right resources on their side if this is something that you want to further discuss, or maybe have your detailed questions and want to have a more personalized one-on-one session with Solver. So.
Hey, Michael, I just noticed that there's one question did come in.
Oh, okay.
I'm just looking at it here, and I think it's saying, does it handle multiple legal entities? The answer is yes. No, there's no limit to that in any way. A similar question to that: can it handle multiple charts of accounts if the legal entities might be different? I get that question a lot, and the answer is clearly yes. Then the next part of the question was, can forecast logic be different between companies? Absolutely. So it's a matter, just like with Excel. I mean, the great thing about Excel is you can create your logic as simple or as complex as you like, and we're based on that. So yeah, so if you want different drivers, different metrics that push the budget, the forecast, absolutely. So thank you for that question.
Great. Any others? I sorry, I didn't see that one come in, Terry. Thank you for picking that one up. All right, if we don't have any other questions, we thank you again, and don't forget that, as I mentioned, there's a survey at the end of this, a few questions that you can quickly take, and it'll give us some guidance on, both this webinar today as well as maybe some future webinars. So really appreciate everybody's time. Be safe, everyone out there. So have a good rest of your day, and thanks everybody for joining.